Welcome back to What's on My Needles. So this week I'm actually going to be working on a blanket rather than one of the projects that I sell on Fantacle Crafts. So, and I'm not doing a completely knit blanket either. So what's on my needles this week is kind of the wrong name. It's going to be what's on my hook. So I'm going to be working on a blanket that's going to look a lot like that for the edging. So it's a fleece blanket with a acrylic crocheted edge. Now this one has 3 rounds. I haven't decided how many are going to be on the current one, but this is a pretty pink. That's not the one we're working on. We're working on this one, or this is one part of 2. So everything you'll see will be on this blue, and then the main part of the blanket is actually going to be this white. But since I do the header before I do the body of the blanket, just so it's easier for me to connect, I will be doing the entirety of the header first, which is this piece because it's only 24 inches wide. The first step is actually to take this over to my cutting table and using rotary cutters, make it square, so the little pieces already had that done, and punch holes in it, which neither pieces had done. So I actually use 2 different rotary cutters. I use a straight blade and I use a skip stitch blade. So I'm going to see if I can bring that in focus. So that is the skip stitch blade. So you'll see that there are little half moons missing. That is where the blade does not cut. It's only those little pieces at the very edge, they're kind of shiny, that cut. And that makes the holes for this. Now, I haven't figured out how to film that in a way that works, so I'm just going to do that off camera, and I'll bring it back and show you what those holes are. And then we will actually get to crocheting. So I will be right back after I get that step done and after I get set up. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to these social media platforms. Links will be provided in the description below. So I have trued up both pieces of fabric, and I have gone ahead and punched the holes in them. So I know it's a little hard to see, but there's my fingernail through that one, and so on, all the way around the edge. Now, I start at the center bottom of my header. Now, this is personal preference. This is entirely based off of how I figured out how to do this, not off of what Linus requires. So I'm going to start with a slip knot. So I have a loop with the working yarn on the top. I put my hook in, I pull the working yarn through that loop. Now I leave a bit of a tail to weave in. Some people like to crochet over their ends. I don't. That's partially because I learned to knit way before I learned how to finish off crochet correctly. Okay, so I actually fold the edge over. Not required. Some people say not advised. I'm inserting my hook through the hole, yarning over and picking up the yarn, yarning over the hook again, and drawing through the 2 loops that were on the hook. Then I'm yarning over one more time to draw through. So those are all of the moves used on this first round. So again, I'm inserting my hook through the fabric, picking up a loop, yarning over and pulling through 2, yarning over and pulling through 1. So it's a single crochet and a chain 1 all the way around. There is a little bit of an oddity when we come to the corners. So because I piece my fleece together with crochet, I actually have to leave my corners square. Now what that means is that instead of just being able to add a chain or 2 to make sure that my stitches lay flat, I actually have to do the corners like you would the corner of a granny square. So I end up doing a single crochet into the hole, chaining 3, and then doing another single crochet. If we get there in this part of the video, I will show you. But all I'm doing is literally those couple moves over and over and over again. So if you're going to make blankets for Project Linus, you really do need to double check with the chapter of Project Linus that you are donating to see what their requirements are, what styles, what sizes they are looking for, if it needs to be a certain kind of fabric, if it needs to be a certain kind of yarn. My local chapter likes all sorts of blankets, including this style, which is fleece with acrylic around the edge. But please, if you are going to donate, check with your local chapter either on their website or start with the national website and then branch out to your local chapter and find out what they need. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm almost to the corner, which is why I have kept going. So normally when I punch fleece, because it takes so long for me to get the setup ready, I tend to punch a lot of blankets all at once, so that I've got like 3 or 4 blankets, if not more. They're all ready to go, and then all I have to do is sit down and have a movie marathon or a TV show marathon and just do them, or work on them like one a night for a week or 2 to get through all the ones that I prepped. This is the second blanket that I'm doing in this season, so since August, and that's August of 2020 if you are watching this at a much later date. The first one, I didn't really explain what I was doing. I just did it in time lapse, and that one was lots of little squares that were pieced together. And this time I'm just doing 2 pieces because that's all I needed to add on to the big piece of plaid. So I'm almost to the corner. Okay. So there's a hole there and a hole there, and I'm actually going to go into both of them even though they don't quite line up. I end up making that judgment call on every corner of what to do about the corner. So I've done it into the very last hole, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, folding over the next side and single crocheting into that hole again. And then I will just continue all the way around the edge of this piece. I will show you how to connect the two, or how to connect the end of this round back to the beginning, and then how to start the next row. And that will be all for this episode. If you would like to help fund this page, please find me on Patreon at Theatrical Crafts. Okay, so I'm down to the last stitch of the first round. So there's my last single crochet, last chain stitch. Sorry about that. Then I'm going to insert into that first V, slip stitch. So I'm going to pull loop through and then pull that same loop through the stitch or the loop that was on my hook. Do that one more time, and then chain 3. Then go into the next space and single crochet. Then continue just as we were before, chain stitch and single crochet. So that is actually the basics of how to do one of these. My gauge is going to be different from everyone else's, so if the Single crochet chain one does not work for you because you're using a larger hook, because you're using thicker yarn, or you just hold the yarn tighter. Do what works so that the edge lays flat. And again, if you're going to donate it, please double check with your local chapter of Project Linus so that you are doing blankets that they can take and can use. Because while it's great to support charity, it's much better to support charity in ways that they want and can use. Okay, so I'm going to finish off the header and the base, and if I get it done before I have to post the video, I will post at the end of this. There will be a picture of the finished blanket.